Hello everyone! Tonight we're slipping into slippers you probably won't want to borrow. You wake up in ancient Rome, not in a marble villa, not even in a proper bedroom, but in a rented brick room tucked behind a wine bar, above a bakery that's always burning, and next to a fishmonger who doesn't wash his hands. Welcome home. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for a gentle hum, and let's set out on this night's journey together. The first thing you notice isn't the sound or the light, it's the weight of your own feet. The heaviness isn't exactly pain, nor is it fatigue, but something quieter, more persistent. It sits just under your skin like old bruises and familiar regrets. The air is thick and dry. Smoke from someone's fireplace seeps through the cracks in the walls, mixing with the strong smell of vinegar from a broken vase downstairs. You breathe through your mouth, but it doesn't help. You lie still for a few more seconds, trying to remember if you've been dreaming. You never have, or if you have, they're gone as soon as you wake up. All you have left from last night is the ache in your shoulder and the faint imprint of someone's elbow on your ribs. You rise slowly. There's no need to rush. The first customers won't arrive until the market opens, unless old Felix, the baker, shows up again and says he needs morning warmth before his wife returns from her sister's. He never pays in full, but he brings leftover crusts of bread, sometimes honey too. You sit on the edge of the straw mattress, a few crumbs crunch underfoot. The carpet is old, sagging in the middle, and smells faintly of mildew. The sheets you sleep on have holes in them that you haven't noticed in weeks. You pull them off your feet and fold them, mostly out of habit. No one checks. No one ever checks. The room is silent, except for the faint creaking of the beams above. Someone walks by heavy footsteps, probably Myrna, the washerwoman with thighs like pillars and a temper like hers. She lives upstairs and spits in the yard every morning. You like her. Your space is about 6 feet wide by 5 feet long, just enough for a rug, a chipped table, and a small earthenware pot of water. There are curtains, no door, no windows, just a gap near the ceiling that lets in a little pale light and sometimes rain. You have very little: an old apricot dress, a pair of frayed sandals, a broken comb, and a bundle of coins wrapped in cloth hidden inside your left shoe. 12 sesterces, enough to pay the rent for the week and buy a piece of dried fish if you want. You reach for the basin. The water is old, drawn from the communal tap yesterday. You splash it on your face. It's cold enough to sting. You see your reflection in the ripples, a glimpse of tired eyes, hollow cheeks, and tousled hair from a long night. You purse your lips, compose your features, and pretend that everything is okay. You've been in this room for 3 years. You know every crack in the wall. You know the exact number of tiles between the floor and the ceiling. You counted them when you were sick and couldn't work for 2 days. 2 days of starvation and watching cockroaches crawl across the floor as if they had more purpose than you. Your tunic still smells faintly of someone's perfume, not an expensive one, maybe the diluted oil sold near the Circus Maximus. You shake it out and pull it over your head. It hangs loosely on you now. You've lost weight again. Your customers don't notice, or maybe they do, but thinner means cheaper, and that's always convenient. You tie a red ribbon around your wrist. It's more symbolic than functional. A sign, a notice, a flag that says, "I am not a wife but not a daughter, not a nun, I am a hired hand." You chew a piece of dried fig from your pocket. It's a little moldy, but it softens your mouth enough to swallow. You take the last sip of water from your flask, then turn it upside down to keep the flies away. Outside, the streets begin to buzz. Someone is hoarsely calling out his wares. You hear the clang of metal, maybe armor, or just a chef whose hand is caught. A cart rolls by, its wheels screeching as if it's about to scream. You don't pull the curtains yet. Instead, you sit silently on the rug, your knees drawn up to your chest. You think about yesterday, about the merchant with the hairy chest and garlic breath, about the teenager who cried behind you and handed you a flower, about the woman who glared at you in the bathroom as if you were contagious. Historians still debate the meaning of your life. Some say you're a symbol of moral decadence. Others say you're a victim of poverty, a footnote to the empire. But none of them have ever sat where you sit, tying ribbons to your skin and hoping the bruises will fade before nightfall. You stand at last, dust the hem of your shirt, tuck the rag into your shirt, walk to the curtain. The sun is rising, casting a thin golden light between the buildings. You hear water pouring over coals, dogs barking at chickens, someone screaming about stolen grapes. You take one last breath in the room. It smells like you, your work, your worries, your will. And hey, before we head out into the streets of Rome, take a second to like the video and subscribe, only if you really like this kind of quiet, gritty history. I'd love to know what time is it, and where in the world are you listening? Now, let's move on. The city is awake, and so are the men. You step outside, and the street greets you like an old lover, loud, rough, and too familiar to your body. The stones are warm underfoot, even this early. A broken amphora leaks wine into the gutter. The scent mixes with urine, ashes, and baked bread from a nearby stall. You pull your shawl tighter around your shoulders, not because of the cold, but because you want to delay being seen, if only for a moment. In the narrow, crowded alley, a boy runs past with a loaf of bread clutched to his chest, chased by a baker swinging a wooden paddle. A stray cat licks something unidentifiable in the corner. You nod at an old woman picking wilted herbs from a crack in the wall. She spits near your sandals in response. Not everyone likes you. You tread carefully, not out of politeness, but because the strap of your left sandal is still broken. And if it breaks again, you'll have to beg the leather merchant to lend it to you, and he likes to ask for strange things in return. The baths are 6 blocks away. You know the way. Past the temple where no one prays after dark. Past the tavern where someone once mistook you for a runaway wife. Past the statue of a small god with a broken nose. Snub, the locals call him. You touch the base of the pedestal, not because you're religious, but because the little rituals give you a sense of control. The baths smell of old sweat, herbs, and warm stone. You pay your entrance fee 2 old copper coins and step inside. Steam clings to the walls. Water splashes, a woman sings softly in a distant room, another curses about lice. You quickly strip, fold your robe on the bench, and sink into the warm water. The water is not clean, but it's not as bad as you thought. You scrub with olive oil and a blunt scrub. The pain in your shoulder subsides a little. You notice a bruise on your thigh and sigh along the edge. You can't remember when you got it. Last week, maybe, or the week before. It doesn't matter. Across from you, 2 women are arguing in hushed tones. One gestures at you. You turn away. You know that tone not because of the price, but because of your presence. Some think you shouldn't be in public. Others are just jealous that you're getting paid for something they give away for free. You dry yourself off with a borrowed towel. It smells of thyme and mildew. You pull your clothes back on, comb your hair with wet fingers, and head out into the street. It's mid-morning. Outside the bustling market, chickens squawk, pots and pans clang, and someone plays a bad flute. A few men glance at you. You ignore most of them, but you catch the eye of a soldier leaning against a pillar, picking his teeth with his fingernails. He raises an eyebrow. You shake your head. Not today. You head toward the familiar corner, not the brothel, not the door, but a spot near the olive stand, where there's pleasant shade and a steady stream of people. A few others are already there. Flavia, with her painted eyes and forced smile. Junia, who claims to have danced for senators. You don't believe her, but you like her stories. You stand, arms folded, ribbons on display, eyes soft. You watch. That's your real job. Not just the action, but the reading the way a man walks, the way he holds his bag, whether he looks at you or through you. A merchant passes by with 2 boys carrying baskets. He pretends not to see you, but his eyes flick to your feet. Maybe later, or maybe not. Junia leans in. Have you heard about Livia, she asks. Seized by the magistrates last night? No license? You nod slowly. Licenses are a joke, just a way for powerful people to tax offices they don't own. You once had an office. You lost it when you couldn't pay the renewal fee. Now you just bow your head and hope the uninvolved person doesn't ask any questions. Historians still argue about how much freedom you had. Some say you could own property, make money, even retire. Others say it was all an illusion, gold-rimmed chains. Now you're not so sure. You've met women who ran away. You've met men who didn't even try. A young man stops near you, nervous, barely of age. His tunic is clean, his hair is over-oiled. He smells of pine and desperation. How much, he asks, not meeting your eyes. You tilt your head. For what? He stammers, just friends. You nod toward the alleyway by the olive stand. You know a corner that's windy and out of sight. He follows, fumbling with his bag. It won't last long. It will never last. The alley is narrow, shady, and smells faintly of fermented olives. You've been here before, too many times to count. The wall to your left has a fish-shaped crack, and the rock behind you is just rough enough to remind you not to lean too hard. It's not romantic, but it's private and in your line of work. That's a luxury. The young man fumbles with the straps of his tunic. His hands shake as if afraid to touch something too real. You recognize this type. The first time, maybe a gift to yourself before you leave for military training, or maybe just lonely. The lines are blurred. You place a hand on his chest, not gently, not roughly, just enough to say, okay, you've done this before, hundreds of times, thousands of times, if you're honest, and you'll do it again until your knees buckle or your luck runs out. He tries to kiss you. You turn your head. The kiss is gone. A moment later, it's over. He steps back quickly, as if touching you has burned you. He mumbles an apology. You don't answer. He hands you 2 coins, one more than you asked for, the syntax, and "Thank you," he says. You nod. He hurries away, disappearing into the crowd like a pebble dropped into the Tiber. You straighten your tunic, adjust your shawl, and step into the light. Flavia is still on the corner. She raises an eyebrow. You shrug. Work is work. You spend the next hour watching the market change. A child steals a pomegranate. A man haggles over goat cheese like it's gold. A girl trips and scrapes her knee. No one stops to help. Rome is always moving, always hungry, always forgetful. You think about lunch. Not that you'll eat much. Maybe a handful of lentils, or a piece of flatbread if the baker's in a good mood. The hunger is familiar now. Not sharp, but dull like a bruise you forgot to check. You walk toward the fountain near the old square. It's cracked. The statue's worn smooth by time and children. You splash water on your face, wash your hands, take a sip. It tastes of minerals and something metallic, but it's wet, and it's yours for a moment. A man approaches, older, gray hair at the temples, well-fed, rings on 3 fingers. He doesn't smile, but he stops too close. "I know you," he says. You don't answer. "You were with my brother," he adds. You still don't answer. He hands you a coin, silver, enough for 2 nights' rest and a new comb. He doesn't say what he wants. He doesn't need to. You follow him not because you want it, but because silver doesn't fall from the sky. Not in this city. Not for the likes of you. His house is larger than you expected. Marble floors, painted walls, Neptune inlaid ceilings. You try not to look impressed. He leads you to a small side room, small, with cushions on the floor and the faint scent of incense. He closes the door. You inhale, exhale, the smile, but only with your mouth. Historians still debate the boundaries of consent in ancient Rome. Some argue that prostitution was transactional and honest. Others point to power, class, and desperation. You don't argue, you just survive. He touches your face. You don't flinch, not this time. Then you lie on the mattress, staring at the mosaic. Neptune holds a trident and rides a dolphin. He looks proud, triumphant, the god of water, horses, and accidental drownings. You trace the cracks in the tiles with your toes. The man snores. You tuck the coin into your tunic, gather your things, and leave quietly. Outside, the sun has set. The streets glow orange, long shadows stretching across the stones like lazy cats. You take a deep breath. The air is thick with dust, ash, and roasting meat. You turn back to the alley. Flavia is gone. Junia is sitting on the sidewalk, counting coins. "How was it?" she asks. You shrug. "Quiet." She sniffs. That's never a good sign. You both laugh, briefly, then silence. Across the street, a group of young men are shouting and throwing stones at a stray dog. It yelps and runs away. No one intervenes. You look down at your hands. They are clean, but you can still feel the fingerprints on your skin, like memories, like stains invisible in the light of day. You think about going home, but it's too early. There's money to be made, and tonight won't be easy to sleep. So you sit down on the same sidewalk, same dress, same ribbon, and you wait. The light fades as night descends on the alleys. The stone beneath you cools. The wind picks up, carrying with it a scent both pleasant and unpleasant: roasted onions from a nearby stall, but also the unmistakable scent of urine warmed by a long day of sunshine. Rome, always layered. You shift onto the sidewalk, stretching your legs, rubbing your ankles where the sandals cut too deep. Across from you, the olive seller is packing up his wares. His son throws a rotten fig at a rat, misses, and curses as if he learned it from a soldier. You chuckle. Life goes on. Then you see him, your favorite customer. Not because he's nice, not because he pays well, but because he listens. His name is Gaius, and he sells inkstones and wax to scribes who never smile. His tunic is always straight, his beard is neatly trimmed, his eyes are kind but tired. "Is there a room tonight?" he asks, approaching with a forced smile. You nod, same price. He doesn't haggle. Never. Just walks beside you as you walk back to your room, your cell, your cave, your palace of broken clay and broken plaster. The curtains are half closed behind you. He sits on the edge of the mat, waiting, not touching. "How are you today?" he asks. You blink. No one has ever asked that before. At first you don't answer. Then you shrug, the usual. He nods, not pressing. Instead, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out something wrapped in cloth. You unwrap it. 2 dates. Fresh, sticky, sweet. You split them, offer him one. He declines. You eat slowly. It tastes like a kindness. Afterwards, you lie next to him, not touching, just sharing the same space. He tells you about the Senate's latest folly, about a pigeon nesting on his bookshelf, about the neighbor's new dog, trivial things. You listen. You even smile. Once. Historians still debate whether Roman prostitutes ever formed attachments, whether a client could be more than a transaction. Some say yes, pointing to the poems and letters. Others say no, arguing that survival leaves no room for sentiment. You don't know what it is, but it is something. He leaves just before curfew. You watch him disappear in a puff of orange torch smoke. You don't call. You never do. You roll over on the carpet, hands behind your head, staring at the cracked ceiling. You count the tiles again. You always lose track around 30. Not because you can't count, but because you drift, your thoughts pulling you back into your memories. You miss your mother, not her face, exactly her hands, always moving, always cleaning, weaving or holding something. You wonder if she recognizes you now, if she understands. You remember your first night on the job, the fear, the shame, the sharpness of it, like falling into cold water and not knowing which way is up. And then you remember the next morning, eating hot bread for the first time in weeks, and realizing that the shame doesn't fill your stomach, only the money does. You fall asleep for a few minutes, maybe longer, until a scream jolts you awake. Someone is arguing outside, a man's voice, loud and hoarse, a woman's voice, sharper, angrier, then a crash, a vase, a plate. You don't check. Instead, you light the small oil lamp. The flame flickers, like everything here. It's old. You pick up the comb, brush your hair. It gets caught in it. You wince. Continue. Adjust your shirt. Wipe your lips with a damp cloth. Get ready. Because the night in Rome is just another day. The customers change. The streets change, but the rhythm remains. You step outside again. The moon is up, dim behind the drifting clouds. A small torch burns in a stand across the street, casting dancing shadows like ghosts. You head toward the tavern near the square. It's not your usual place, but sometimes the crowd is better. More money, fewer questions. On the way, you pass a temple, closed, silent. A statue of Venus looms in the courtyard, marble eyes looking down at the street. You stop, bow, not in prayer, but in recognition. The goddess of love, the goddess of desire, the goddess of all things that are bought and sold. You keep walking. The tavern glowed like a fireplace at the end of a Wangshong dark hallway. The door was open, and light and laughter filled the streets. Inside, men leaned against each other, drunk on wine and listening to their own voices. Someone played a lute out of tune. Someone sang a love song in the voice of a dying goat. You entered without hesitation. This was not an unfamiliar place. You knew the cracks in the floor, the stains on the bar, the way the ceiling sweated when the room was too crowded. The bartender, Lucius, gave you a half smile. He was one of the few who did not look at you with disdain, maybe because he had a daughter. Maybe because he had met enough people like you to know that respect costs nothing. Busy night, he said. Maybe, you said. You slipped into your usual corner by the wall. The torch above you flickers, orange lines across your face. You adjust your ribbons, adjust your tunic. Your hands rest lightly on your thighs, but your eyes dart around the room like a soldier searching for a weak spot in a wall. A young man catches your eye, bright-faced, flushed with wine. His friends push him toward you, laughing and covering their mouths. He hesitates, then comes closer. "May I sit?" he asks, nervously. "You may." He perches beside you like a bird on a branch, unsure if it's safe. You ask his name. He mumbles, a common name, Marcus or Lucius or Gaius. Doesn't matter. They rarely remember yours anyway. You speak, or rather, he speaks. Brags about a chariot race he saw, about a girl he kissed, about his father's mansion and the summer storms that shook it. You nodded, smiling occasionally. You had learned to show interest with your eyes, not your heart. Finally, he lowered his voice, asked a real question. You named your price. He swallowed hard, but nodded. You stood, and he followed. The alley behind the tavern was narrower, darker than the ones you usually frequented. The stone wall was damp. You leaned against it, arms crossed. He staggered a little, fumbled with his belt. You helped, not because you wanted to, but because it was faster and kinder. It was over quickly. He apologized. They always did. Then he slipped a coin into your hand. Not enough, but you said nothing. Just put it away and walked inside. The night dragged on. Another man. Then another. Someone polite. Some don't. One calls you Venus. Another calls you by your mother's name. You don't correct her. At some point, Lucius brings you a cup of water. Drink, he says. You drink. It's warm, but clean. You return to your corner. Your head is against the wall. Your back aches. Your legs feel like wet rags. But there's still time. There are still men to meet. There's still money to collect. There's still rent to pay. Historians still debate how many women like her existed in Rome. Some estimate thousands. Others say tens of thousands, scattered across brothels, street corners, private rooms. The official census records list only a few hundred, but she knows how easily shadows slip through the records. She's seen them all. Street girls with cracked heels, courtesans in silk dresses and discreet smiles, boys with painted lips and borrowed names. Rome accepts them all, chews them, swallows them, sometimes spits them out, sometimes doesn't. Around midnight, the tavern empties. The singing fades, the lutes fall silent. She steps outside to breathe the air. The stars above are faint but present, like freckles on the shoulders of the sky. She leans against the door, breathing the clean night air. And then a voice soft, familiar. You haven't been out yet. It's Gaius again, returning from wherever he's been. Can't sleep, she lies. He nods, no questions asked. They walk together. No destination, just light, slow steps through narrow streets that echo with the ghosts of gladiators and poets. He tells you about a dream. You listen, not because you care about the dreams, but because his voice is warm, like warm cloth on cold skin. Finally, you reach your building. He doesn't follow you inside. He just places a fresh fig in your hand, not a bruise in the least. Later, he says. You nod, say nothing. He disappears into the darkness. You pull the curtains, step inside. The air is still, the lights are off. You sit on the mat and hold the fig like a gift from another life. Tomorrow will come. It always does. Mornings come like a debt collector, uninvited, inevitable, and always a little noisy. You open your eyes, see gray light filtering through the cracks in the wall. A fly buzzes in your ear. Your back protests as you sit up. The carpet beneath your feet is thinner than yesterday. Or maybe your bones are just making noise now. You chew the fig Gaius gave you, savoring its sweetness. It's overripe. The skin cracks at the slightest touch. Still, it's better than nothing, better than most mornings, when you start your day with stale bread or just water. You wipe yourself down with a cloth dipped in leftover rainwater. The pitcher you leave outside your window holds enough water most weeks. As long as no one steals it. You once caught a neighbor draining a glass. You didn't stop her. She had kids. You didn't. You braided your hair with trembling fingers. Tie a ribbon. It's frayed at the ends, but still red, still bright, a small flag in the dust. You slip on your sandals and step out into the morning, again. The streets are quieter than usual. A festival, perhaps. A funeral. Rome needs little reason to gather or mourn. You follow the distant drums and flutes, past closed windows and sleepy dogs. As you walk, you think about escape. It's a game, your feet moving on their own. You imagine a farm, far away from the city. A piece of land where no one touches you unless you ask. Chickens, maybe a goat, no ribbons. But then a wheel clatters behind you and you jump aside, heart pounding. A cart rolls by, the driver barely looking at you. Reality hits you like a slap. When you reach the forum, the crowd has gathered. A speaker shouts from the steps, arms outstretched, face flushed. You can't hear his words over the echo, but you can hear the rhythm, anger, pride, promises, always. You weave through the crowd, careful not to touch too many people, not because you're weak, but because touching raises questions, and questions are more valuable than answers. You stop by the fountain, wash your hands, catch a few glances from passers-by. Some are curious, some are spiteful. A woman whispers to her companion and points. You look back, she turns away. It's still early, but the work begins at first sight. A man in a fine robe approaches. His slippers are clean, but his eyes are not. "You look tired," he says, as if it were a compliment. You shrug. This city is tiring. He smiles. "Come on, I have a room." You hesitate. His coin purse is heavy. His voice isn't unpleasant, but there's something about him that makes you feel off. The way he tilts his head, the way he licks his lips after he speaks. The rent is due soon, though, and your shoulder aches from lying on your side. You follow. The room is in a boarding house above a bakery. The smell of yeast and ash hangs heavy in the air. He locks the door behind you, not unusual, but never welcome. He talks too much, brags about his clients, his wife, his dog. He undresses slowly, as if unwrapping something delicate. You wait, watch, record every move. When he's done, he doesn't hand over a coin, just reaches for his coat. You clear your throat. He laughs. "Oh, right, the price." He throws a coin on the floor. You pick it up. It's copper. Not what you agreed to. You say nothing. Just walk out, jaw clenched, the coin still warm in your palm. You drop it into the beggar's bowl as you pass, not out of kindness, because you don't want it anywhere near you. Historians still debate the protections for women like you. There were laws, yes, but who enforced them? Who cared when money wasn't paid, or when bruises lingered? The records say nothing. The walls know better. You walk back to your alley, to your corner, sit with Junia, who hums a tune you don't recognize. She has a new bruise on her collarbone. You don't ask. Did you hear she said, "A senator's daughter ran away, taking a servant and a bag of silver"? Where? Nobody knows. Maybe Gaul, maybe the sea. You smiled weakly. Maybe she just kept walking. Junia laughed. It was a dream, wasn't it? You were both silent, watching the streets, waiting for the next set of eyes, the next offer, the next hour that passed. Because in this city, everything moves except the things you need to forget. And those things are always right there with you. By noon, the city begins to sweat. The stones underfoot are so hot it burns. The air clings to your skin like damp wool. You lie fanning yourself with a folded piece of papyrus that someone has dropped near the bath. There's a poem on it, something about doves and lust. You can't read it, but the rhythm is familiar. You wander towards Sabura, Rome's rough-and-tumble quarter, where noise and sweat and sin are everywhere. That's where you started, where everyone like you started. Unless you were lucky enough to be born in silk and cushions. You don't like Sabura, but there are corners that still feel like old friends. Stalls selling honeyed chestnuts, old women sharpening knives for half the price. There's the boy who tries to steal from your bag, grinning when he gets caught. You pass a painted wall advertising a new gladiator. Valens, the red boar, it says in chipped red letters. You've seen him before, shirtless and smirking, brandishing a bloody sword. The crowd admires him. He winks at you as you pass. You don't smile back. Blood isn't sexy. You stop at a stall selling cheap perfume. The salesman is a skinny man with ink-stained fingers and no eyebrows. You sniff a bottle, lavender, maybe, or something fake. You think about buying it, but keep the coin. You'd rather eat tomorrow. A voice calls your name, not your real name, of course. The name people call you on the street. You turn around. It's a girl you haven't seen in months. Tertia, younger than you. Cheeks still soft, eyes wide. She used to work near the river until the soldiers came. Then she disappeared. Where did you go, you ask, startled. She shrugs. Taken in by a matron? Said she'd teach me to weave, but her husband had other plans. You frown. I ran away last week, she adds. I've been hiding ever since. You look her up and down. Her dress is torn at the hem. Her arm is wrapped in cloth, blood seeping out. She needs help. But what can you do? She notices your silence. It's okay, she says. You don't owe me anything. Still, you give her the fig seed from before. Suck it, you say. Better than nothing. She smiles, strangely grateful. You walk together for a while. The two of you, side by side, move like shadows between stalls and shutters. You buy a small loaf of bread, tear it in half, and share it without a word. She tells you about a man who promised to take her to Alexandria. Just one more thing. He says, then I'll take you. Of course. He never came back, or perhaps he never intended to. Historians still write about the trade routes of Rome and the grandeur of its ports, but they rarely mention the girls who waited at the docks for men who never returned. You stop near the Temple of Fortuna, throw a pebble into the offering bowl, not for luck, for revenge. Tertia says she's heading east, toward the edge of the city. There's an old woman who hides runaways. For a price. You nod. Be careful. She hugs you, gently. Then she disappears into the crowd, like a scent on the wind. You stand there for a moment, listening to the doorbell ring from a nearby window. Someone is cooking garlic and lentils. The smell makes your stomach churn, but you keep going. Back in the alley, Flavia has taken your spot. She raises an eyebrow but moves aside. You sit side by side, knees almost touching, watching the sunset. A man walks by, his eyes sweeping over you both like rain on a statue. He chooses Flavia. She stands, following him with the grace of someone who has done this too many times. You don't feel jealous, just tired. You lean your head against the wall, close your eyes, just for a minute. You dream of green fields, of babbling rivers, about the hair that's all over the place and not a single footstep behind you. You wake up because someone's kicking your leg. Another customer. Of course. The man was sweating before he could speak. His face was flushed, his breathing labored, as if he had run here or run away from something. He was older, not in a glamorous, silver-haired way, but in a soft and sagging, tired way. His tunic clung to him in the wrong places. His slippers were mismatched. He smelled of rotten olives and worry. Are you working? He stammered. You looked up slowly. Yes. He shifted his feet. Can we find a private place? You nodded. Led him down a side street you had walked down before. Quiet. Shady. With an old wooden bench that no one had bothered to touch. You sat down. He hovered, not knowing where to start. First time you asked? He nodded, avoiding your eyes. I just want to know how it feels. It's not uncommon. Some customers aren't looking for pleasure, just comfort, or a confession, or someone to witness their existence. He tells about his wife of 2 years, about his son who left for Britannia and never wrote back, about the shop he opened when his joints failed. He cries, quietly, as you hold his hand. You don't undress. He doesn't ask you to. You just sit together, in silence, while the city hums around you. When he finally leaves, he thrusts a small bag into your hand. It's heavier than you thought. Silver, not copper. Enough for 2 days of food, maybe 3. You blink in surprise. Thank you, he says, and disappears into the crowd like a man who was never there in the first place. You sit on the bench a little longer than usual. There's something strange about being paid just to exist. You walk back to your alley. Flavia is back, her lips slightly bloody. She doesn't explain. You don't ask. Good night, she says. Strange. She nods, all of them. You watch the sky change. The sunsets in Rome are spectacular reds and golds and purples splashed across the rooftops like spilled wine. People talk about them like they mean something, like a beautiful sky can save the day. You disagree, but you watch anyway. Junia comes over with a handful of dried fruit. Found a vendor who owes me, she says, handing you a piece. You chew slowly. Your teeth ache. You're too young for that, but you're here. The street lamps are coming on, one by one, flickering in their iron cages. The city has transformed itself again, from crowded to cavernous, from damp to slippery. The night reveals what the day only reveals. You think of Tertia. You wonder if she found the old woman in the safe room. You wonder how many others have not. Historians often paint ancient Rome in broad strokes: emperors and wars, aqueducts and mosaics. But here, in this forgotten corner, history is not a picture. It's a bruise, a whisper, a coin clutched in a hand. You pull your shawl tighter around your shoulders, not for warmth, it's still hot, but for comfort, a thin armor against the world. A man walks by, his eyes searching. You tilt your face slightly, letting the light hit your cheek just right. He keeps walking. That's fine. You're not desperate. Not tonight. You lean back, rest your head against the wall. Listen. In the distance, someone sings again. It's the same love song from before, softer this time. The words are melodious with wine, but the melody is gentle. You hum barely audible, just enough to feel human. The street empties, like a draining bathtub. A merchant closes his stall. Another gathers coins. A child is carried home, half conscious on his father's shoulders. You stay, because you can't go home. This is home. His stars are out now, though barely visible beyond the haze. Rome never truly sleeps, not even in the darkest hours. There's always a wheel turning, a dog barking, a torch flaring back to life. You've learned to sleep with one eye open, one ear listening. You rise from the curb and stretch your legs. Your knees crack like twigs. You're not old, not yet, but this work ages you in strange ways. Your spine forgets how to stand straight. Your smile forgets how to be real. You decide to walk? No destination, just motion. Moving helps. You drift past the bakery where the ovens are never cold. Past the baths, closed now but still steaming. Past the statue of Minerva whose face is chipped from too many rainstorms. You wander toward Aventine Hill. Not because you belong there, it's far too wealthy, but because from there, the city looks like a dream. From up high, everything below becomes softer, more forgiving. You reach a low wall near a garden. Sit. Let your feet dangle. Below, the city stretches in gold and soot. Rooftops shimmer like fish scales in moonlight. You spot the Colosseum's jagged silhouette, the broken teeth of an empire's smile. You rest your chin in your hands and breathe. A rustle nearby startles you, but it's not danger, just another girl. She's maybe 16. Her dress is too fine for this hill. Her hands too soft, but her eyes wide. Glassy, tell the truth. She sits beside you, saying nothing. You pass her a fig you've been saving. She bites into it like someone who hasn't eaten all day. You from here, you ask. She shakes her head. Capua. You nod. Long way. My uncle said he had work for me. You don't ask what kind. She leans her head on your shoulder, uninvited, but you don't push her off. You sit there, two silhouettes stitched together against the city's endless hum. For a moment, you both belong. Historians still argue about how Roman women supported each other. Some say they were rivals, each fighting for the same scraps. Others speak of sisterhoods, quiet alliances born in shadow. The truth, you think, lies somewhere in between. The girl speaks again. Do you think I can go back? You pause. Maybe, you lie, if you leave before dawn. She nods like she believes you. You don't correct her. A breeze lifts the hem of your dress. The smell of the Tiber reaches you: mud, fish, old wood. You think of the river baths, where the city's poorest go to scrub away yesterday. You think of how water feels on skin, the closest thing to erasing a memory. You stand, help the girl to her feet, walk her down the hill. You point her toward the eastern gate. Go, you say, run if you can. She clutches your arm. Will I see you again? Let's hope not. She smiles, a real one, then vanishes down the slope like mist in sunlight. You watch until she's gone. Then you walk back. Your legs feel heavier than usual. The climb, the lies, the fig, all of it adds weight. But still, you keep moving. You pass a couple embracing in a doorway. Their laughter is soft and private. You look away. You reach your alley. Flavia is asleep, curled up like a child. Junia is gone, probably working, probably pretending she's not cold. You lie on your mat, pull the shawl over your face. The world fades to black and the voices fade to echoes. You dream of sand, of a house by the sea, of hands that only touch to hold. And in the morning, you will rise again. Dawn crept through the cracks of the alley like spilled milk. It didn't announce itself, just replaced the darkness gently. You opened your eyes to the rustle of hooves and the rustle of slippers. Your back ached. Of course, but you were still breathing. It was worth it. Flavia was gone. Her rug was still warm, her ribbon left behind. You picked it up. It was pale blue, worn like yours. You stuffed it in your pocket. She'd ask for it later or maybe not. Sometimes girls just left, wordless, like wind through a broken window. You stood slowly, reluctant. Your slippers stuck, your fingers numb. You stretched anyway. The day wouldn't wait. The bakery was open. Lucius nodded and tossed you a loaf of bread. It's dry and dense, but it smells like fire and flour, and it warms your hands. You chew as you walk, letting the crust scrape against your mouth, a little pain, a real place. Past the temple, past the fountain with the cracked basin. You pass a line of slaves being herded toward the market. Chains clank with each step. A girl, maybe 10, catches your eye. You hold her gaze long enough for her to feel seen. That's all you can give her. The bathhouse is steaming, the smell of orange peel and wet limestone wafting out into the street. You linger near the entrance, pretending you have coins. You don't. But you remember the only time you had coins, the Syrian soldier who paid you to come with him. You soak so long your fingertips turn to raisins. It feels like you're disappearing. Sometimes, disappearing is the goal. You drift toward the market square. It is a buzz with noise and movement, vendors shouting, dogs barking at carts, children stealing olives with greasy fingers. You didn't come here to buy anything, you came here to be seen. A man in a merchant's toga notices you. His eyes sweep over you. Searching, not hungry. Looking for a friend, he asks. You nod. He doesn't want to talk. He barely looks at you anymore. He just gestures toward a shady colonnade. He pays in advance 2 silver coins, stacked on top of each other. Good enough. Better than average. He's quick, almost mechanical. You stare at a slit in the column as he grumbles. When he's done, he doesn't say goodbye. He just adjusts his belt and disappears like steam. You sit there for a moment, legs folded, feeling his weight still pressing down on you. That's when a shadow falls over you. A woman stands there, middle-aged, sharp-featured, wearing a wool coat that's too nice for the neighborhood. Are you Livia's girlfriend, she asks. I am, you reply. She died. Fever. Didn't last long. You blink. When? Last week? You nod. Silence falls. The woman doesn't offer condolences. She just turns and walks away. You and Livia weren't close, but once, she held your hair back when you were sick. Once, she gave you her only apple. That counts. You walk back down your alley. The sky is high and flat now, the heat pressing down like a hand on your neck. Flavia is back, sitting against the wall. Her lips are chapped. She's holding a cloth, her expression unreadable. Did he pay you, ask? She shrugs. So no. Junia returns a moment later, limping. Her dress is torn at the hem. Last night, you ask? One of them bit me, she mumbles. Where? She pulls her shirt down to reveal a bruised shoulder. The teeth marks have darkened, turning purple. You rummage in your pocket, hand her a silver coin. Get the ointment. She tries to refuse, but you press it into her palm. Historians debate whether women like you formed communities. Some say you were competitive, solitary. Others believe in secret alliances, shared rules, silent support. You know the truth lies in quiet moments like this when someone presses a coin into your hand, not out of pity, but out of understanding. The sun is high. The streets of Rome become a river of labor and noise, but your alley remains silent. Flavia hums a tune. Junia rests her head on your shoulder. You say nothing. You close your eyes just to breathe. When you open your eyes, a boy is looking at you from the street. Big brown eyes, sticky fingers. He doesn't look scared, just curious. You smile softly. He doesn't smile back. His mother calls, he runs away. And you wonder, as always, if these children grow up and remember the women they passed in the dark, if a flash of a red ribbon or a tired smile ever returns in their dreams. Probably not. But maybe. You lean back against the rock and sigh. You're still here. Still you. And tomorrow we'll ask you the same thing. You don't remember falling asleep, but the sun is slanting now, gulden, sticky, sliding down the buildings like syrup. You wake with a start, your cheek pressed to the stone, your temples throbbing. Junia is gone again. Flavia is humming a tune, slowly braiding her hair over and over again, as if it's the only thing in the world she still has control over. You stretch. The stretching doesn't help. You decide to walk again. The forum is crowded today. An old senator is shouting from the marble steps, waving a scroll at the barely listening crowd. You join the crowd, mostly to rest your feet. He's talking about grain, or taxes, or the gods. It doesn't matter. His voice is majestic, his robes whiter than bone. Around you, shopkeepers whisper, boys weave through the legs, and someone drops a pitcher of vinegar on the tiles, making a loud noise. No one applauds, no one laughs. You remember when you were a child, maybe 12, and heard your first political speech. This, you thought, is the sound of power. But now you understand. Real power doesn't shout, it chooses. You walk toward the edge of the square. A new girl arrives, her hair oiled and her eyes wide. She hasn't learned to lean in yet, not too eagerly, not too coldly. She looks at you. You look at her, a look that only other girls understand. It's not a warning, it's a welcome. And then a man calls your name. Your real name. You freeze. No one has said that in months. Not since the little house across the Trastevere, since the day you left, clutching your slippers and staying silent. You turn around. It's him. Not a customer. It's your brother. He's older now. His beard is thicker. His shoulders are broader. But it's him. He stares at you like he's just woken up from a long, terrible dream. You open your mouth to speak. Nothing comes out. He takes a step forward, then another. Is that you? He whispers. You don't answer, but you nod. He swallows. I looked for you after... You shake your head. You don't want to talk about the fire, or the argument, or the way your father slammed the door and said, "You're not my sister anymore." Your brother looks down. Are you okay? You force a smile. I'm alive. He reached into his bag and pulled out a bag of bread. Bread, cheese, a handful of dates. He thrust it into your hand. I'm not here to fix anything, he said, but eat, please. You nodded again. That was all you could do. He didn't ask where you lived, he didn't give you a penny. He just put his hand on your shoulder gently, sincerely, and walked away. You stood there long after he was gone. The new girl looked at you, curious. You turned back to the alley, clutching the package in your arms. You sat down, opened it. The scent hit your nose, fresh bread, delicious olives, a date so sweet you almost cried when it hit your tongue. Flavia looked at it. Someone loves you, she said. Not enough to keep me from being here, you replied. But you break the bread in half, give her the larger piece. She tears it, shares a portion with Junia when she returns, limping slightly, eyes red. 3 girls sharing a little warmth in the setting sun? Historians often ask what ancient Rome smelled like. They write about open sewers and incense, fish stalls and sweat, but they forget the smell of grief, the taste of kindness. Silence can be the most sacred of rituals. You sit side by side, chewing slowly, the dusk falling around your shoulders like a blanket. For now, that's enough. You barely slept. How could you? His face lingered behind your eyelids. Your brother, older, sadder, but familiar in a way that made your chest tighten. You kept replaying his voice, the way he said your name like a question he was afraid to answer. You wished you had said more, or maybe nothing at all, but you said just enough. The piece of bread he had given you was almost gone now. You kept the last piece, not to eat, just to touch. It felt too warm to remember, too soft to believe. You woke to find the alley still sleepy. The sky was overcast, the city as quiet as a held breath. Even the dog seemed tired today. Flavia was brushing her hair, slowly and carefully, sitting on the edge of a broken wooden crate. Junia remained curled up, her hands covering her eyes, breathing shallowly. She hadn't said a word after she'd shared the bread last night. Not even a thank you. You didn't need a thank you. You stood up and stretched, the stiffness of the rock still in your spine. Your hips throbbed, a reminder from 2 nights ago, too heavy, not cushioned enough. You decided to walk. You needed air, movement, distance. Past the bakery again. Lucius raised an eyebrow when he saw you, but said nothing. He'd seen your brother yesterday, too. You knew he had. The Romans pretended not to see, but their eyes were always on him. You passed the steps leading up to the forum, now strewn with fallen leaves. No one had spoken there this morning. No announcements, no scrolls, no speeches, only pigeons picking up crumbs and a slave boy sweeping the dust in neat lines. By the fountain, you splash water on your face, cold, almost cruel. But it wakes you up. You stare at the ripples. Your reflection wavers. Your face looks thinner than it did last week. Or maybe you just see it differently now. You think about running away. Think about walking to the city gates and not looking back. If your brother found you once, maybe he'll find you again. Maybe this time he'll help, really help. But then you remember the alley. The way Flavia's eyes light up at the sight of the olives, the way Junia presses the coin into her bruised palm, silently vowing to keep it, the way neither of you has to ask permission to sit together. You're not free here, but you're not alone either. So you turn back. And just as you turn the corner, Flavia looks up and smiles. Junia had made a small fire of twigs and scraps of food. She waved to you, inviting you to sit by the warmth. You sat quietly. Flavia tore the last fig in half and handed it to you. That's the last one. You nodded. I know, Junia mumbled. We'll find out more. There was no plan, nothing certain, but somehow the words felt heavier than they should have. Historians wrote endlessly about Rome's economy, imports, taxes, the labor market, but they never wrote about the real money loyalty bought with crusts of bread and fragments of faith, the stuff that actually kept people breathing. The girls didn't ask where you'd been, they didn't mention your brother, but when Junia handed you her shawl, and Flavia brushed a lock of hair from your cheek, you knew they understood. You sat there while the city groaned to life, merchants hawked in the distance, an overturned carriage, the braying of a donkey from somewhere on the hill. And then, Junia hummed softly. It's that old tune again, the one everyone knows but no one remembers learning, the one you hum when you need to pretend everything's okay. You hum it with her. It's my time. And now, it's enough. The hours drag on like warm wax. The city flickers in the pale sunlight, and you begin to wonder if Rome ever really sleeps. It just turns, changes from one sound to another. You return to the alleyway with your body intact, but something in your thoughts today makes everything seem upside down. Your brother's bread still rests at the edge of your mind like a weight, and the silence that follows after he leaves. After the last bite, after Flavia's quiet smile hums beneath everything. Junia is beside you, tugging at a thread in her tunic. Her fingers are methodical, as if she's unraveling something larger than fabric. You sit beside her, leaning against the warm stone in the sun. She doesn't look up. Flavia returns a moment later, empty-handed but red-faced, her braids tangled, her cheeks flushed from walking too fast or thinking too hard. She collapses dramatically with a sigh that says, I tried, don't ask why. Instead, they all look out into the street together, as if something remarkable is about to happen. A vendor throws water from her stall at a dog. 2 old ladies fight over a jar of olives. A group of boys chase mice with sticks. Life goes on. Finally, Junia speaks. I had a dream last night, she says, that we were on a boat. You glance at her. Where to? She shrugs. It doesn't matter. Just go. The wind is blowing. Flavia is singing a silly song. Flavia scoffs. It must be a hymn. I know what dreams mean. Junia laughed. You threw up over the side of the boat. You smiled. Exactly. They fell silent again, and you felt a warmth that did not come from the sun, a warmth that still lay beneath your ribs when people remembered you, even in your dreams. Then Junia spoke, softly, carefully. I don't want to die here. No one answered right away. Because what could you say to that? After a moment of silence, Flavia looked at her with a strange, serious calm. Neither do I. You nod, slowly. Then we don't. Junia chuckles. It's not that simple. Maybe not, you admit, but we get to decide how the story ends, or at least how we tell it. Flavia picks up a pebble and throws it across the alley. It hits the wall with a tick-tock. I'll write my story with a market by the sea, she says. Selling perfume, not fake real lavender. I'll wear silk, just once. Junia tilts her head back. I want a bed, a real bed, with legs, and a mattress stuffed with feathers, not straw. You add quietly, I want to not have to pretend one day. Those words still ring true. Historians are still debating whether women in your position believed in the future. Does survival dull the part of your brain that dares to imagine? Some say hope is a luxury reserved for the rich. Others believe it is your only weapon. The sun sets, the shadows lengthen, your stomach growls softly. You scoop up the last of the chestnuts, share them in silence. Ed. Across the street, a couple walks by, hand in hand. The woman has a gold clip in her hair that sparkles in the light. She giggles at her companion's words. And for a moment you look at her with a strange pain, not exactly jealousy, just curiosity. What would it be like to laugh like that, so unguarded? You don't have an answer, but you know how to survive until the next hour, the next coin, the next fig. Do you think your brother will come back? Junia asks, breaking the silence. You hesitated. No. Flavia frowned. Why not? Because he gave me what he had to give. And it was true. He reminded you that someone had known you before you became this version of yourself. That there was a name you heard before the city whispered it to others. That memory doesn't always leave you behind. The wind picked up, and Flavia tucked her legs under her skirt. I met a man today. He said I looked like his wife. Junia raised an eyebrow. Was that a compliment? Depends on the wife, I guess. Everyone laughed. This time it was a real laugh. And in that moment, the alley no longer felt like a prison. It felt like a secret, a space carved from the stone of Rome, where girls could laugh, even if the world forgot their names. The day passed slowly, as if not wanting to leave everything to the night. I still sat there long after the streets had quieted down, because at this time, this silence was rare. And sometimes silence was all I needed. Dusk has come again. A quiet silence as everything slows down, but nothing can stop it. Rome is holding its breath. You can feel it in your footsteps, in the silence on the rooftops. The shadows lengthen, and the torchbearers begin their slow march down the avenues. The city is preparing for the night. You and the girls don't say much as you pack up. There's not much to take. A shawl, a comb, a brass necklace that once belonged to someone's mother. You slip on your sandals and stand. Your joints ache in a familiar way, telling you you're still young but not for much longer. Tonight, you take a long walk, downhill, past ancient temples, past broken fountains where drunks sometimes sleep, down narrow alleys to the quarter where men carry wine in golden goblets and talk in silky voices. Junia walks with you. Flavia stays behind, muttering something about waiting for someone she knows. She always says that. Maybe she means it. Maybe she's still waiting for the man with the soft hands and the verses in his pocket. As you walk, Junia's steps are slow, thoughtful. She doesn't talk much, but you know her rhythm by heart now. It fits you especially on nights when the future seems just around the corner. You stop in front of a bakery that smells of cinnamon and star anise. The windows are lit up. A boy inside is laughing. For a moment, you pretend he's your son. Your son. Not some illusion or memory, but a boy who will wait for you, open the door, and ask if you're tired. Then you tell yourself not to pretend too much. Do you remember when we used to sing? Junia asks suddenly. You look over. Before, she says, before the streets. You nod. Not much, just a hum. She hums something now, soft and hoarse. The notes rise like steam and dissipate into the cold. Historians don't record songs like that. They record epics, not lullabies. They chronicle war stories, but forget the music of survival, sounds that keep you awake when the world forgets. The path narrows. Junia touches your elbow. There. You see him, a man standing by the wall, his arms folded. his face half in shadow. He's new. That could be good or bad. You nod at her. This one's yours. She squares her shoulders and steps forward, slowly, surely. You stay behind. You wait. The moon is high, silvering the rooftops. It softens everything. The city is unreal again, like a painting that was painted rather than built. You take a deep breath. When Junior returns, her expression is unreadable. She says nothing, just falls beside you. That's enough. The two of you walk back in silence, past the bathtubs, past the perfume counters, past the archway where someone had carved a heart, now half erased. No words needed. Not tonight. Back in the alley, Flavia is sitting on a crate, chewing something. She hands you a slice of prune. You take it. Sweet, sticky. Perfect. Is there a problem, she asks. You shake your head. No coins, Junior mutters. Flavia shrugs. There's always tomorrow. You two sit together again, 3 shadows pressed against the stone. Someone is playing a flute down the street. The sound drifts toward you like a memory. You close your eyes. You sit there thinking about your brother, about his hands, the way he pressed the loaf of bread into yours without pity. You wonder if he is still in this city, if he is sleeping in his bed or staring at the ceiling, remembering the taste of your name when he said it. You wonder if your mother still recognizes you, if your voice can break her heart or heal it. Flavia leans against your shoulder, not heavily, just enough to say, I'm here. Junia plucks the brass beads, turning them between her fingers like a spell. The torchlight flickers. And for the first time in weeks, maybe longer, you feel something close to peace. Not joy, not safety, stillness, a peaceful silence amid a life that never seemed to stop moving. Historians still argue about what shaped Rome politics, architecture, war. But perhaps it was this. 3 girls sharing plums in the dark. Exhausted, but not broken. Not yet. Dawn comes again. It comes not with joy, but with persistence, like a stone you stumble over. No matter how familiar you are with the street, the sky turns from inky to gray. The first street vendors begin to sell wares they haven't even unloaded. The bread smells burnt, the milk smells sour. You blink awake under the shawl that has been your pillow all night. Your back hurts, your hips too. But the pain is old, familiar. It means you're still here. Flavia is awake, fiddling with the strap of her sandals. Junia is still asleep, her lips slightly parted, her hands clenched into fists as if wrestling with something in her dream. You don't wake her. Not yet. You sit up, stretch, twist your neck. The alley is quiet except for the doves, except for life. Another day. And somehow that counts as something. You stand up, dust your skirt. The sun is still out, just a faint glow behind the clouds as if the city is pretending it doesn't need to wake up. But it does. And so do you. You walk for a while, with no particular direction, just moving because the silence can start to feel like a trap. You pass the bakery. The boy isn't smiling today. You pass the palmist. She's painting her nails with crushed berries and frowning. You pass the graffiti wall again, where someone has painted over the old red line. Now, there's only a smudge. You wonder if anyone else has noticed. Back in the alley, Flavia has picked some figs. You don't ask where she got them. You know her rules: no stealing from the poor, no flirting with married men, no getting caught. 2 out of 3 is a good day. She hands you one. You open it. The inside is red and glistening. Junia stirs. Sweet. You tear off a piece and hand it to her without a word. She chews slowly, eyes still bleary from sleep. That dream again, she mumbles. The boat, the sea. Flavia smirks. Are you still throwing up? Junia nods. You smile. The wind blows through the alley like an old friend visiting. Somewhere, a dog barks. Somewhere, a woman screams. Somewhere, something shatters. But not here, not now. Here, in this moment, everything exists. You think about how long you've been in this city. You don't remember when you stopped counting. Maybe after the 5th winter. Maybe after the 10th man who asked you a price without looking you in the eye. Maybe after the first time you heard another girl cry and realized you didn't know how to comfort her anymore. But then you met Flavia. Then Junia. It wasn't just about existing. It was about existing together. And that changed everything. Historians still argue about what defined daily Roman life. Was it the forums, the aqueducts, the politics? But you think it was probably the alleys, the cracks, the people no one wrote about. Because while senators debated laws on marble benches, girls like you mended each other's sandals, split stolen figs, and sang songs no one bothered to write down. And somehow, that mattered. Junia pulled her shawl tight around her shoulders. "Someday I want to leave," she said, not as a wish, but as a fact. Flavia looked at her, nodding slowly. "Then I will?" You turned the gun's body between your fingers, feeling the stickiness on your palms, turning. You asked, "What about you?" Junia asked. You thought for a moment. "I don't want to leave," you said finally. "Not yet. I just want to make sense of my being here." That silenced them both, because they understood. Then you both lay back on the warm rock, staring at the square of sky above. The clouds drifted like smoke. You hummed a song again, your song, the nameless song, Flavia chimed in. Junia whistled the tune off key. It wasn't pretty, but it was yours. The days grew longer, and so did you. You think of the girls who came before, the ones who didn't make it to morning, the ones who never had a fig, a song, or a name longer than a whisper. You think of them, and you breathe, because you're still here, still laughing, still making noise, even when the world wants you to be quiet. And maybe tomorrow won't be better, but you will be better. You stand up, flick your skirt, brush your hair. Flavia is grinning at something. Junia pretends not to smile. And in that moment, you realize the truth. You're not just surviving Rome, you're shaping it. One ball, one step, one song at a time. And now, the sky changes again. The alley is silent. The days slowly slip into memory. Like a page turned silently. The two girls lean their heads against the rock, their breaths rising and falling in a gentle rhythm, as if the city itself were listening. You close your eyes. You don't need dreams of boats, silk, or the lavender market tonight. Just this air, this warmth. The silence between heartbeats. Because survival isn't always war. Sometimes it's just a whisper. Sometimes it's just three voices humming in the dark, promising each other that tomorrow will come, that bread will be found, that no one will be left alone in the cold. And even if history forgets your name, you still remember your name. So now, let the alley fade away. Let the voices fade. Let the light fade, like a curtain being drawn. Let your muscles relax, your breathing become slow and heavy. Let your thoughts settle like dust on stone. You are safe. You are home, for now. The city is asleep. And so should you be. Sweet dreams.